Hello, and welcome to Geek Out number 60. This is going to be spoiler filled. You have been warned. It is over Dungeon Lord Ancient Traditions by Hugo Huesca, and it is narrated by the Sound Booth Theater team. As you know, love the team. Ooh, oh my, this book is so good. Like, yes.
Absolutely. Been looking forward to finally getting to this geek out, talking about book four. There's just so much goodness in this book. Um, for those of you who are not familiar with the series, it is a lit RPG that reads more like a Dungeons and Dragons dark fantasy, and Edward essentially works at a parody of Geek Squad, where he was a programmer who ended up just fixing computers. Um, Instead of it actually being Geek Squad, it's called Laser Shark. And yeah, like book four, I think between book three and four, there's a couple year time hop because book one takes place in like a total of 3 days. And then at some point in book four, Edward, Lord Wraith, is talking about how he's been there for 3 or 4 years now. Um, and what a journey up until this point. Gosh, the ending, cannot wait to get into that and speculate about book five. I know book five is on the way, but I'm not sure where it is in regards to Audible release and all that good stuff. Um, yeah, what am I missing to get this set up, Pete?
If we're still on the spoiler free side or I don't know. That's not the good parts.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so jumping into the spoiler filled section of this goodness. Um, so like book four opens up, and um, I kind of had some feels from, back in the days when I read Dragon Lance religiously. I want to say it's the War of the Souls trilogy. One of the main characters is a Minotaur, and we open up with a Minotaur's point of view for this one, who's pretty much leading a bunch of bandits, right?
Yeah, he's
And
the head of a mercenary band.
mm-hmm. And his warrior instincts start tingling, his spider sense, his, whatever you want to call it, and um, he thinks they're about to be under attack. Tries to warn the crew, and the guys on watch are already knocked out, and he pretty much tries to get them all set up to defend their camp as he runs away and runs face first into Edward. And gosh, what a showdown! Um, Curious your opinion on this, but I think Hugo Huesca does a good job when it comes to writing combat. Either authors
Yes.
can or they can't, and he manages to find that fine line. And it reminds me, another author that comes to mind is like R.L. Salvador, the one that does the Dritz files, or not the Dritz files, the Dark Drow, Legend of
Yeah,
Dritz.
yeah.
Um,
It's been a
he
minute since I've read that,
he does a good
but
job writing combat, and yeah, that opening duel fight scene, um, as Edward and the Minotaur face off, and he pretty much gets recruited to be a mini dungeon boss to defend these scrambler like towers. that is able to counter the heroes that are summoned, right? Did I get the gist of all that in there?
Yeah. The scrambler towers stop divination attempts and make it so that the heroes can't operate. So then
Hmm.
the Inquisition has to utilize live soldiers. They can't just do what they did at the end of the last one, where they put a giant, quest out, and everyone who's still playing Ivalice ended
Hmm.
up showing up, and we had the big throwdown with Ryan Silverblade, the first, his main, and all that.
I got a good chuckle out of the fact that when Ryan was going to introduce himself at one point, he almost slipped up and
Yeah.
did the Ryan Silverblade instead of whatever his new name is.
Oh, Argent Plane or Plane Shifter.
Yeah. I just always think of him as the yeah, Ryan the Brat.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, like his character really put in a couple things into perspective about like how people would deal with the trauma of going to a new world and having to actually like play out the video game experience. So many gamers, us included, talk about like going in and slaying people and doing everything, but it's a game, right? Where these two characters get thrown into it and it's no longer a game. It's not just pixels on the screen. It's real
Well,
blood and
that and it's
death
a little
and
different with the dark fantasy
hmm
because most of them, or oftentimes, they're thrown into a newbie area, kind of like
hmm
Edward was initially, and then that ends up working out in his favor. Meanwhile, Ryan, oh man, he's like right by the thick of it with all the big baddies. Doesn't even have a
yes,
chance.
yes. So gosh, like was it the boatman Haran? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he
He
bestowed some of his own power on him,
right, and he really set up Ryan where he didn't Edward. Edward just got the whole.
but
Go ahead.
that's where the difference is because Edward was recruited by, oh, I can't think of the guy's name. The Silence Between Heartbeat, the Lord of the Dark, and then
Oh,
Haran
murmur.
was, yeah, Murmur. There we go. Yeah, Edward
Mm,
was Murmur's call, which Haran was just doing his job. Where um, Ryan was brought and given the divine powers of um, the boatman.
okay. I guess like I followed that, but I really didn't quite process that because the boatman was
When it
involved.
came in, it was that scene where they're in the underworld and or the netherworld, and they
Hmm.
just took Ryan. He gains consciousness. They go through the little portal. They've got the ogre about to smash him,
Hmm.
and then he calls out Haran and has this whole little conversation, and we get the surreal moment with objectivity leaving his parents' size hole in his memory.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to just jump around and not even fight it here. What's your speculation on that? Because Edward has a gap in his memory very much, and we pretty much assign it to objectivity, right? And then later, Ryan calls him out and says, I tried to find you. There are no records to you prior to age 11. And Edward can't really recall his parents, just the accident and the scripted story that's implanted in his mind, and that he grew up with his uncle. Um, and then I want to go one step further. Um, he gets a lot of references and similarities, including like facial stuff, to the other big mind brood guy, right? They keep
So
reference.
far.
yeah, they keep referencing how similar he is and um how much they even look alike. So, like, is this additional foreshadowing of like maybe Edward isn't originally from Earth, or
I
is
think
he
I think
originally
that
from Earth,
that
or
I just took that as godly powers, because the fact that Iran ripped out Edward's heart and replaced it with a dungeon mantle, and then the
Mhm.
fact that Iran gave some of his power to invest into Ryan to give him the ability to portal, and then the fact that how the light god gave Galio back his sun wave, like that's all just gods playing with mortals. Because in this book they finally say, oh, whoever the one with the shadow tarot is, the
Yeah,
oh, I
Snake
can't
Snake
think of the
Lady,
words. Anyway, so she
Colgaron?
eh, no, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so Shadow Tarot lady mentions that there was a time before objectivity, but then when you talk to Haran, the boatman, he says there isn't a time before objectivity. Objectivity was always there.
I don't know. I want to go back to this because he asks the boatman about it, and he's like, "Well, I'll give you a hint. Like, this is how objectivity works. Don't think too hard about it directly. Skirt around it." And he mentions that
Or
he
you might
won't.
just fall into it.
Yeah, but he mentions like with objectivity around, you won't be able to like piece it together. And, just jumping to the ending, we already did full disclaimer spoilers. I think that it's foreshadowing that when he's in Ivalice, he's not going to be able to get to the bottom of it. But at the end of the book, he's no longer in Ivalice. He's back at Earth. And I think book 5, we're going to get some of that additional backstory there
Oh,
about
oh,
the
oh man.
parents and like that hole in his memory. Um,
Because
without
okay, so
objectivity's interference there.
getting to the epic ending that just makes me want more. It was so beautifully done because we had Galio, Ryan, and Edward all get pulled through, and then for Galio, he gets picked up by
I
oh
think it's Pantheon's the name of the.
Pantheon,
Yeah.
which prior we found out that they don't really exist. So that was a little funky there. And then now they've got Galio, which
Hmm.
Galio's been skirting that line between like what is right and the whole like okay, sidestep, sorry.
So many
The
layers here.
whole Sephar's Bane thing was just beautifully done. Like we get little snippets of it throughout all the
Hmm.
books. Like
Hmm.
book 1, the big I guess, trouble we're running into is the little girl with the mind brood.
Hmm.
And so we slay it and we think, yeah, we saved all these people. And then we hear and we get a little bit of story about Sephar's Bane. And then book 2, we run into Nikolai in the catacombs where he does the crazy, arm whip teeth thing and messes up people and messes up
Yes.
Kess. And then yeah, so we take out Nikolai, and then now, or what was in the? Trying to think of the third one. What was the big arc thing?
Mm,
Been a minute.
gosh, we just did it.
Did
So, oh,
I gotta
book
look
3
at it?
was Undercity. It was the face off with the church. We were getting Galio's backstory there. Like that was
Oh,
the big
okay.
thing,
Was there a
right?
mind brood?
I don't think we really had any mind brutes there. We did in first, we did in second,
Yeah, I
and then
think it
the
was more
third
the
one,
light. Yeah,
yeah.
with the big climax of actually getting a hero
Mhm,
and the Shadow Tarots and
mhm.
learning about the endeavor for St. Clair and Tillman's factory.
Yes, getting his
We got all
patron.
that in
Mhm.
3, and
It
then
was
4, like, oh man, like we like had a bit in 1, had a bit in 2, had a reprieve in 3, and then just bringing it all together and wrapping it. Oh man! So like this dungeon lord already had a full life, and
Hmm.
then the whole Sephir's Bane incident, then just him picking up that weapon in the middle of St. Clair and Tillman's shop, proving
Yes,
that it's him, but it's not
yes.
him. And oh,
It,
beautifully done, amazing, and that's where like people are scared of him. Like everybody fears him. So between him actually being able to challenge the gods, as he says, and everyone from the light side and the dark side fearing him, and then it's the odd realization of Edward has similar beliefs,
I,
but the
I was
difference
going to point
is,
that out. Like the best
well,
arguments are. Go ahead.
it was all about that little girl when he has that moment and he's like, "Oh, back when you attacked Barova and you planted the mind brood, what was
Say
her
her
name?"
name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
gets
man, and then the whole like Galileo fighting alongside of him for some of it. Beautiful,
epic,
beautifully done.
epic.
And
Yes.
then like we got St. Clair and Tillman. Like Vane is currently
Hmm.
the dungeon core of the flying dragon facility, and
Yes.
she's going to be building up her army, but Edward is partnered, and yeah, it's just like so many things could happen. We're going to have some epic armor, or not armor, well, definitely armor, but army is what I meant to say. Army scaling on that side, as well as now that we're in the regular world, and then Sephar saw the technology because he's able to scry on
I wanted
Ryan.
to go down that rabbit hole there. There's so many layers and everything getting stacked up here. One of the reasons why I enjoy this series so much is it has a lot of the good stuff we like about lit RPG, and it has a lot of the good stuff and scaling that we like about epic fantasies, right? Like Edward is still very much in like the early ranks of dungeon lords and how that all works, right? But it's scaling. We're building up there, and then just the factions involved. Like Edward and Gallio are, oh, what was the terminology they used? Not like rivals, but um,
In opposition.
yeah, yeah. Well, they're pretty much sworn rivals. I forget the actual terminology that they use. So like there's certain like epicness that comes from that when we're looking at it from Vane's point of view and everything that kind of like gives him some additional resilience. But Gallio is having like his own doubts and everything with the church, yet he is revered as the black sheep, but one of the only known living individuals that has the sun wave that can
Yeah.
only be gifted by the light god. Um,
Honestly, I think she spent too much of her energy, and or because she was dealing directly with the Dark Lord's mantle or the Dark Lord dungeon heart, and that's how they power the heroes, that she's lost a lot. Yeah, after the giant war where they're going up against what is it, Halages, and
mhm,
then yeah,
mhm.
so I think her power is waning because the boatman's always like, yeah, people give me a bunch of sacrifices just to get a glimpse of all this power that you could have had, and they're doing all this and that, and yeah,
So we have Gallio on that one side and the light.
but
Uh,
he's right at the tip to revamp the whole structure
Well, you
as well
also have
as.
Edward on the dark side getting
But he's not
blessed,
really. He's trying
but
to
he's
be on
not
his own
really.
one.
But
Yeah.
Gallio is not really based off of like, you have the Inquisition and the Dungeon Lords, and then you got like the two black sheep who are rivals that end up teaming up at the end of this book to, deal with this third faction, which we find out that Sapphire is not actually dark because the sun wave doesn't impact him.
Yeah,
And
because the
so,
Mind Brood isn't. So what? So the Shadow Tarot in book 3, and I wish I had the quote here so we could listen to it.
mhm,
But the tarot card that she ends up giving to Edward is a man they don't know who's on a computer, Galileo, and Edward.
mhm,
So Galileo is right about at the point where he's about to topple the light side because they're all corrupt in bureaucracy and blah
n
blah blah.
not even that,
Meanwhile, to
but
join forces to take on Sephar because no one wants to all be mind broods. And then now at Earth where yeah, he was a programmer himself and that would help out a lot, but we're like right in the middle of it. Oh man, and that doctor report at the end.
oh,
Oh
that was
man, that
probably one of my
gave me
favorite clips
goosebumps.
there. Yeah, before I lose that beat though, you also have the mind broods that we think have infested the Inquisition, like, it's
Oh,
almost, like,
everyone. Yeah.
guaranteed, and, like, Edward's area is one of the few areas that hasn't been infested because of the spiders, like, the before the larvae mature, the spiders can easily take them out. Afterwards, the spiders can't, and, like, the spiders have kinda become Edward's, like, main minion, right? He in order to kinda keep them at bay, um, they're having to throw the spiderlings at the Inquisition just to make sure that they don't overpopulate, right? Like, I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be one of our main trump cards when we do finally have this big clash with the Mind Broods because that's where this is going, right? Book 1, we get a tease of what is capable of the Mind Broods and Sapphire's Bane and all that stuff, and then we have, um, Edward, who's kind of like taken the spiders as his big minion, and then we have the Batlins. Took me a
Yeah.
moment there, and Klep, who's actually the son of a chieftain, but
Or a
like
shaman?
shaman, yeah, yeah, like son of the like this epic hero for the Batlins. And like the last couple books, I think book 3, they were kind of like gathering more and more of the Batlins, and Klep is just had this big epic defeat where like him and Tulip, is that the Spider Queen
Spider
or
Queen he
Princess?
rides. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're getting all this freaking XP and everything, and basically becoming like epic mobs of their own.
Or adventures. Yeah.
Hmm. So yeah, there's all that going on there. Um,
Man, so I guess that's the one thing this book missed, and I'm only saying it because I love all the other ones, but we didn't get a everybody always forgets about Click moment. Like in one,
uh,
he takes out Ranger Ione
mhm,
or, distracts him long enough for yeah, other people to take him out, but and
yeah.
freaking Yarlin,
Oh,
our lead vampire, like we were definitely had her on a tight leash, and now that she's with Sephar, and we were already talking about like I think we have a little bit of a counter if Levi pulls through with her antitoxin thingy,
I
but the
I
mutation or well, it's gonna be weird because Sephar's Bane takes over a brain, but since she's undead and a vampire, I feel like either it's going to make the epic ultimate super being, or
well,
it's not gonna work and she's gonna be our like trump card, not trump card. Because we're gonna have Sephar, we're gonna have her, she's gonna have her army, and she's gonna be like, beep, 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 I'm out.
that's kind of my speculation because she is an agent of the dark, and like as far as like even though she's a sociopath, she is
She's been
servant
around long
of,
enough that
yeah, yeah,
she
but
is always looking out for herself.
she's one of Kolgron's people, which the Serpent Lady god, like she serves her first and foremost. Well, she serves herself first and foremost, and then her dark deity. Um, and then not only that, but like her own self perseverance or whatever. Can she even, like, if everybody's a mind brood, how is she going to survive and eat, right? Because I'm not sure that
Well,
she
but
could.
that's where things get weird because, like, they can regenerate so fast. So she could literally,
Mm,
rip off his arm, eat it, and then it would grow back.
but
So it's
isn't
almost
their
like an
blood
endless resource.
poison? Because
But
like they were
then,
talking about the darts and how the darts were laced in the mind brood's blood. Um, when Vane and the other dungeon lord that he didn't get his final speech, her first apprentice. Anyway, doesn't matter. Um, yeah,
yeah, there's got to be some interesting stuff going on there. But
I
oh
enjoy.
man, Ryan being back at home with all his powers. Oh, I'm sure Haran's gonna pop up somewhere. I have a feeling
Oh,
like I'm a little disappointed. Oh man, I can't think of her name. Oh, book two fling we had
yeah,
where
thief turned
fourth
adventurer.
locksmith is her father. Anyway,
Mm,
so she's overseas, and I'm pretty sure Haran is gonna roll up and be like, "Hey, so now it's your turn to help me out," and then he's gonna pop up in Earth, at Earth, and then oh
oh,
man,
that would be
somehow
interesting.
Sephar is gonna figure out portals or something to get over to Earth, or they're gonna get back, or more gods playing, doing stuff like.
Well, Edward's already trying to incorporate technology into Ivalice. So now that Sapphire, who has like all these resources and potentially like kingdoms and the Inquisition at his disposal, is going to be able to spy on some of this stuff. Like, just imagine
Well,
what
they're
an
both
epic
gonna
final
scale.
battle we're
Yeah, yeah,
scaling
yeah.
to, right? Like,
Because Sephar has to make it from the ground up, where Edward's gonna be like, and then I rolled up in my Hummer full of tech.
yeah.
I don't
Did,
know. Something's gonna happen where Ryan's gonna be holding something, and it's gonna, yeah, it's all gonna work out.
did kind of like maybe plot hole-ish, maybe I just missed it, but did we ever establish how they're keeping the laptop charged?
No, they never could charge it. They never got it to charge because there was a whole
Oh,
incident where he was like, "Yeah, it's not as great to explain on a chalkboard, writing out the script for
mm,
the typical Hello World programming.
mm,
The similarities for the spell structure make sense, but then as soon as it differs, they're completely lost."
yeah, yeah, okay, okay. Um,
Yeah, they never got it to charge.
just so many things about this book. The pacing and everything was so great, right? Like we open up with our fun little fight scene, then we get the moment where we kind of have everything scaling up, getting ready for this dungeon dive into, the mad fun house of like epic monsters and everything, kind of explaining, and it lends so much to the lore of like why these monsters are the way they are, because we had these two dungeon lords that teamed up and made them in this factory, and
But we're
that's how.
also in opposition, so it's kind of like that. Oh, competitive one upsmanship, as well as like just the diversity of potential stuff that you can make.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
oh man.
so well done. And
And now we have freaking Veins, who is probably one of the older ones, and she just saw Sephar, and she knows that's what we're up
mhm,
against. But
mhm,
since we're with Edward and we're in Earth, or the Earth world,
mhm.
we're not gonna really get that viewpoint. Um, then we also got to see a little bit of like Levi and Kleck and Alder, and they're
Uh-huh.
all, Alder's illusion. They're trying to say Ed's still here.
Yet, thanks to Kleck, they don't want to give up, right? Like they're still going to wage this
Okay,
war
okay. I
even
lied. Kleck
without
did get his moment when he was talking to
Cass,
or Kessa of
Kessa,
Green.
our
Avian.
grounded avian who likes to talk to Sarge,
Yep. Yep.
and likes, how did Edward put it? Slime girls, has a slime girl fetish or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, that she
That
tries
just
to
made me a
hide and he
chuckle.
tries not to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
acknowledge or realize. Oh
Uh,
man, so we have so many different things going on.
and then I really enjoyed when like she was going through and kind of like getting a report on everything in the beginning, seeing the two gnomes tinkering with the gun and making the
Oh,
cannons.
the
And
redoubler, the revolver.
yeah, yeah, like gosh. Um,
Well, that and then it was hilarious too because it was like really an enchanted arrow could have done just as much damage or more.
mhm,
And then Sephar's seeing, the machine guns tear armor to pieces and this, that, and the other. And it's like, yeah, but they're not enchanted. They're not magical. They're
right,
just mundane.
right.
So
Um,
yes, it will improve it. And then once we figure out how to enchant, okay, actually, sorry, that was a separate book. I was thinking, how ruthless,
oh,
where the guy's trying to do the micro enchantments and enchant
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
bullet so that he can have guns in the world.
yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. Yeah. The battles in the factory were just so much fun. I really enjoyed the couple times that like Edward just, like opened up and called their bluff. Um, like
oh,
they
oh
they were
yeah,
trying to
he was a
freaking
wild card all the way around. At the
mhm,
feast, the one
mhm,
guy who tried to show up and
bully
steal
him.
some of his stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then like, oh man, every time, like, it started off and um, he's inside a circle or something and he loses his dungeon vision, but
Mhm.
he's used Murmur's Reach and he's, in charge of a slime. So he can't tell what's going on. And the guy is evil villain monologuing at him.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? And then same thing, as he's choking him out and he finally kills him and it's like that nope, you don't get a monologue. But then also in the beginning we get to see with the Minotaur there, Edward's like, oh yeah, I just have this urge to gloat about how awesome and all my great grand plans.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then you see him battling with it for the bloodlust and the fighting throughout it. So.
Right. Right. Embrace that dungeon lord heart. Yeah. Yeah.
And so okay. I guess Kleck got two moments where he saved Ed's bacon. I didn't think about it at first, and it wasn't as awesome or stuck with me as everybody always forgets about Kleck.
Mhm.
Um, Oinus, the god that they have, and he shows up during the Vesca, the
Yeah.
yeah, so or well, that was also beautifully done
Neutral
where
god of critters.
Levy goes to the shop that she now owns because she bullied him anyway, and then the person in front of her ends up buying the ring, and then its attribute or whatever, as soon as you forget about it or you don't need it, it will go to someone else. And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I only need it for this one party." And then Ed being in that moment and that being the ring that ends up there.
Yeah.
And then, just because of Kleck and like why the back lens came all this way to ask you one question.
Bum bum bum.
He's like, I was scared. I probably shouldn't have been. So Kleck saves his bacon there. And then at the very end, when he's talking to Kessa and he jumps up and almost falls over.
Yes. Yes. Um Yeah, the underdog story through and through.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and like I just want to know so much more about Pantheon's front and how many or who or what, because Pantheon brought the heroes.
Hmm.
The heroes are with the light, but they are an amalgamation of the dark. Uh-huh. So they pick up our light aligned guy
Yeah.
who also has been visited by the boatman while he was in his cell, and he had that whole conversation with the Kaftar,
Hmm.
and then he's also saved Ed's bacon a couple times.
Hmm.
So like I'm not sure what all's going on in that. And then yeah, like you were saying with the objectivity and oh man, the fact that the gods aren't present inside the Earth realm.
Yeah, we got some teasers there because that moment when Edward was talking about building a telescope and the constellations, about how speculating that what do they call it, like the underworld might be a whole different planet, even. Um, so yeah, I'm wondering how much more of those pieces will get put together in book five because clearly we're going to spend some time on Earth, right? And we'll
Yeah.
get to see Ivalice move on without him, um, and whether or not they're going to be able to capture that other town, village, place without him, so on and so forth as Cass leads the haunt. Um, yeah, and then
Yeah,
just
we
how the real world deals with Edward. How the
oh
doctor describe him?
the Russian spy. There were so many good moments in the end
Yeah,
here. He was
yeah,
like, "Yeah, I'd really like to get this guy's surgeon's number,
for the
because
prosthetic.
yeah, the prosthetic for his hand,
Hmm.
that or he's just really amazing, or he's got a stash of Phoenix down somewhere, which got a chuckle out of that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Gosh, just so much good stuff in this book. Can't wait to get to book five. Um, yeah, yeah. Any other big highlights from this book that you want to go down the rabbit hole on? Um, like there.
I mean, this one wrapped up a lot of stuff, tied in a lot. I
Hmm.
enjoyed how we went up against the oh Minotaur at the beginning, and then we're using him as a minion in the end. And I feel there's going to be a big shift because at the very beginning, book one, and one of the reasons I love the series is the Faustian Gambit. You
Hmm.
know, by having the power, you will turn to the dark side or you will further the darks. And that's been the theory or the core of all four books. But
Hmm.
now, because of the bat lens, he's got blessed or whatever, cursed by Oinus, and I wish I had it in front of me, but essentially like um any victory that you cheat to get, you will lose. Anyone who you keep close and you love will die. Here's the blessing. You will get to see everything that you build and work for, fall apart.
Hmm. Hmm.
And another thing that's kind of weird is, oh, what's that? It's not a Mirage Fiend because those are the shapeshifters. The cloak that he rocks now that's sucking his blood.
Oh, yeah. I forget what it is, but it seems pretty cool. Like he's slowly becoming like an actual legit looking dungeon lord, right? Like his
Yeah.
demon cape type thing. Um,
Well, now is it with him? It has to be, or it's dead.
oh, I was just
But
thinking about
all he
that.
can do is resummon it. So,
Well,
because
Haran's
it
magic works in Earth, like we know from the earlier books. that
Well, that
are
plus
wrong can
like
cast
Edward's
there.
magic works because he's regenerating, he's healing because
Uh,
and he used his hand because the
but that's
linebacker was all like, "Oh, endurance
those are
stuff."
passive though, right?
Eh,
Maybe not.
yeah, I guess it's just touch activated. 'Cause
Mhm.
Levy has that whole, chuckle arc when he first gets
Yes.
it, like,
Yes.
"Oh, anything you touch will steal the endurance, don't get it around any lady friends unless
Uh,
they're into that." And
yeah,
then, oh, he
we
had
know where
some,
she
like,
stands on
witty
that.
witty, like, as a person with some super high whatever stat, he dodged it.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, so good. It'll be interesting to see if Galileo and Edward team up again in Earth to get back to deal with the greater challenge, right?
Yeah. This is the tarot card lined up, and that's what is done so beautifully because initially we thought it was the guy who was working with the light and who created them originally, but
Hmm.
learned that he was taken out by objectivity because he went too far.
Yeah.
Now we're literally in Earth where we can easily pick up someone to join us and to fill in that third slot, as well as with the light and the dark. The light being, you know, most of them could have mind broods in them because we get that whole, oh, when the Inquisitors first show up and
Hmm.
they freaking use that artifact on the dungeon lord, and
Right.
then Zephyr's like, "Oh, good boy. Go ahead and burn that." And he's like, "No, I'm sworn to do this." And he's like, yeah, so you're a mind brood. Suck it up. Burn it. Win
Yeah.
stat.
Yeah.
And then, so this is the only spot where Galio's going to be safe from that. We're going to find our third man for the tarot card. Bane is going to build up her epic army in seclusion as she figures out all of the factory and her epic powers.
Hmm.
Fleck is going to get another win somewhere. He just has to.
I think
And
he's going to end
then,
up like uniting all the Batlands under one ruler, right? Like the
yeah,
Batlands.
because that's what we tried to do. We did that with the spiders.
Hmm.
Which I was sad we didn't see a whole lot of spider stuff going on. We got to see quite a bit of Keftar. Um, but then yeah, we're gonna ramp up our
Well,
Batlands.
the spiders and the Batlands are both like known as prolific breeders. So as far as like his minion production goes, he's got those being his main guys because like the Batlands riding the spiders, and then you have the factory, and then you have the avians, which they were just like five of the first ones that came over.
Oh
So
yeah, they
they're going
might
to go
bring
back
more.
and they
And
might bring
then I'm
more.
hoping I'm hoping oh Jarl, our vampire who went with Sephar, ends up like checking it out and being like, "All right, Edward,
Yeah.
let's beep this guy up."
Yep. Yep.
And because she was unconstrained, she's going to go and create a massive horde of her own. But meanwhile, everyone who you thought you knew and loved is actually a Sephar's Bane mind brood thing.
And the only workaround that we know of is become my minion, join my kingdom.
Well, we've not seen it work. We think it works
I
because we
guess that's
haven't seen
true.
it
I
catch
guess that's
anything.
true.
And that's that whole like, just because nothing happened didn't mean that you succeeded. You just didn't fail.
Hmm.
So I would like to think it works, but we've seen there's also workarounds where literally
Yes.
Bane as Edward as, in a pact, but then
Prisoner.
Jarl uses the mind control and then says,
Hypnosis.
"Get your own free will." Woohoo. And it's broken.
Yeah. Which she can do to get out of
Sapphires. Yep. But the only thing that a little bit irks me of that is everybody knows that vampires can't see their own image because they don't show up in mirrors.
Oh,
But
that's a
that's
good
okay.
point.
That is okay. I will forgive you because
I'll allow
everything
it.
else is just so epic. And everybody's done the zombie bit to death where there's, like, oh, what is it? Oh man.
Really, Pete? Really? Yeah.
I can't think. It's a TV show. That's why I can't think of it. Left for Dead. No, that's a
Walking
game.
Dead.
Walking Dead. Thank you. Walking Dead. Everybody already has the zombie virus because it's airborne, and as soon as they die, they turn. Where other ones, you get bit by it, you turn. Anyway, there are several variations of both zombies
Right.
and vampires, so I'll let that one slide.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Peter, insert all the titles, just like in the lit RPGs as they collect titles,
Yep.
killer of this, destroyer of that, blah, blah, blah. Let's get on with the dinner party.
Yep.
Fane's so cool. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, and that whole like almost, completely wrecks the weapons they're using.
mhm.
And then, yeah, just, and then after all of that and the seriousness, it's just like, oh, he's probably courting her.
Yeah. This book is we've said it before, it's definitely a more mature book. Um, but it's tastefully done and it feels authentic to me, right?
Well,
Like,
I enjoy these kind of books, and Brandon Sanderson is probably the number one for the love to hate them, and then you get to see it from their side, and you're like, can I really hate you? And that's where we are. Like the book for the traditions, it shows this is what the core of us are, but as they show the generations and everything, some of them are like marquises and trying to be kings and going that way, and then Vane is like one of the originals or older ones, and then you have the ones that have surpassed that, like Haran, and then eventually that's how they become gods, and so on and so forth. And Edward currently is the only one who has used both the light and the dark, much like the heroes in his Scrambler Towers,
and he's got a blessing slash curse of a neutral god.
as well
Um,
as being cursed by the light with his Wraith hand.
yeah, yeah. Should be interesting. Should be interesting. Cannot wait for book 5. Um, yeah.
So that question that he always asks himself, or he was asking a lot of in book 3, where he's like, "Oh, I wonder if insert two people who he was partying with at the beginning or book 1, if they would recognize me." And then like at the beginning of this, with the slave collars, he admits to himself it's a little dark. It's not how he'd want to do it, but this is the reality of the world he's in. And then we're in Earth. He doesn't have any family. He's wanted by the police. He's apparently some Russian, spy.
Uh,
Like Galio's not there to save his bacon because Galio's being held by the creators of Ivalice, which were supposed to be the good guys. But do we know if they're the good guys?
that, that's
Well, I
that's why
guess.
the air quotes light, dark.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
And this is the whole like, I'm gonna be a little disappointed if you break everything, but at the same time, I understand because we opened up with the Faustian Gambit, and
you
now
like to
we're
break
on
stuff.
"If you love it, it will die" from the neutral god.
That's only after he escapes death a couple more times. Cheats death.
Yeah, yeah. I guess he's got 2 more.
So, according to Reddit, Dungeon Lord Book 5's title is going to be Nightmare Kingdom. So is that referring to our Dungeon Lord's kingdom, or is that referring to the Mind Brood's kingdom? Hmm.
Oh, I would have went with
Hmm.
Vane because
Because
Vane's
of the
literally
Nightmare
got
Factory.
yeah the Nightmare Factory,
There we
Nightmare
go.
Kingdom. Like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, lot of
Hmm.
potential, but I felt like that was the direct correlation. Get to see Vane put the smackdown on people.
Well, bam. So yeah.
Because she's always had some crazy inventive aspirations, like when she gets shot at by those random frost giant thingies or frost trolls, and she's just
Yeah.
like, boom, one shot, evil villain monologue. And she's like,
Mwahaha.
oh, but if I totally captured them and then I did this, I could combat a lot of the low level guys here and do these things there. And it's all about the cost and the resources. So, like, she's definitely the scariest person to be up there. And I can't wait for Edward to get back and be like,
I was about to say the
good
same
job.
thing. Like, with their powers combined, just imagine the crazy stuff they can get up to when everything is said and done.
Oh, yeah, we thought hell chickens were these, but oh, man.
Right? Right? On that note, I don't think we have the graphic prepared, but
Oh,
what are we doing for next week?
we talked about this. Can't remember what we said.
I said
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
gonna.
yeah. You were gonna leave it to me. That's what you said. And I said buttons.
You said
I wanted
buttons?
to do so it's between two me right now for which one I
Okay.
want.
Okay. Give me the
And
pitches.
I think I'm gonna go with
To the casual observer, here we
oh eh. It is Life in Exile, Book One, Watcher's Test by John Oswald.
Okay.
And quick little spoiler free stick on it. I love lit RPGs. This one does it differently, where normally it's more mainstream, where there are a bunch of gamers that get transported into a game world. For this one, it's more like a middle aged man with his family, and he is an avid gamer, but the rest of his family really isn't. And yeah, it takes the whole family. So we get the realism of the lit RPG type aspects, but then it also goes and it's a completely unique twist.
Okay.
That's what I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm clicking button. Yeah, so Watcher's Test.
I'm excited. And that's something we like to talk about is kind of like different spins, different takes on genres we're interested and enjoy. Um,
Button. Bow. Alright, so Life in Exile, Book One, Watcher's Test by I want to say that's supposed to be Sean Oswald.
hmm
Yep. So yeah, it's lit RPG esque, and yeah, it's pretty exciting
Nice.
because like normally, I guess if you go like D&D, got fantasy world that you live in, and you assemble your party at the beginning, and you get their moral compass and values, kind of like Mark of Kings. But then in lit RPGs, traditionally, it's, kind of like SAO or Sword Art Online, where gamers get trapped in a game world and they're like, this is awesome. And then you build your party and they balance out. But this is literally like a generic family, wife, father, 3 kids, and yeah, now we're in this fantasy world. So yeah, very very unique, very exciting, quite a twist in regards to what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
61 next week.
Looking forward to checking it out. Um, yeah. Same time, same place, guys. We're going to keep rocking the 5 p.m. Eastern until we tell you otherwise.
Yep.
So you know where to find us. Did I miss anything, Pete?
Hope to geek out with you soon. Bye.
Bye.